and welcome to episode 2 of the Red Mountain Express. I'm Blake Westbrook. Along with me today, and always, is Matthew Joyner. Mr. Joyner, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Do anything fun this weekend so far?
Yeah, it was kind of a busy weekend. I mean, busy in a good way. We went out Friday night and celebrated my nephew's birthday. Just, ate some pizza, hung out. Then last night, we had some friends in town. We went to Good People. We were going to try and go to the Barons game, but it got rained out because apparently we're in the middle of monsoon season here in Alabama.
I'm going to tell you what, I was driving home from work on Friday, and I was so happy. It's a 4th of July weekend. Let's check the weather, and it says rain every single day until next Sunday.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I can't even mow my grass in 2 weeks.
No, yeah, mine's looking pretty rough. So the game got rained out. We hung out at Good People, watched some of the USA soccer game. Lots of people there for that. It was a great environment. People chanting USA every time we scored. Had a few drinks, went to the Marble Ring, had a hot dog from Hot Diggity Dog, hit up 41st Street, and then came home, went to bed.
Tell me about Marble Ring, because you kind of told me a little bit. It's kind of like one of those speakeasy type places.
Yeah, so there's a place in Atlanta that I compare it to called Prohibition. I actually don't know if Prohibition is still there anymore, but the general idea for Marble Ring is you go upstairs, there's Hot Diggity Dog right there, and there's a phone booth. You go into the phone booth, you pick it up, you tell them how many people you have in your party, and then they'll seat you whenever they have available space. What I like about Marble Ring is there's no standing room, so it's sitting room only. You're either seated at the bar or you're seated on around the wall.
And I cannot tell you how much I love that.
No, it's my favorite. That is my ideal spot. It's a great spot to go and sit with a couple of friends, have a quiet drink, or go with your partner, have a romantic evening and a couple of drinks. The drink menu has been changed a couple of times, but every time I've been in there, the drinks have been great. Even if it's an unfamiliar drink, I usually roll the dice and pick something I haven't had before, and I've not been disappointed yet.
Well, no, before that, you said you went to Good People Brewing Company. Did you have the Northeastern IPA there?
I did have the Northeastern IPA again. I know we talked to Michael Sellers last week. If you haven't heard that episode yet, you can go find it on our website at redmountainexpress.com or on iTunes. It's there in our recent episodes. And he brought up the Northeastern IPA. That just came out last week, 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago on Thursday. I've really enjoyed that. I had 2 more of those last night. It's probably one of my new favorites, right under the Mexican lager.
Speaking of food and also of great libations of Birmingham, Food and Wine Magazine, it's owned by Time Incorporated. They are moving their operations to Birmingham. It's going to join their other subscription magazines, Southern Living, which everybody knows about, but also Cooking Light and Coastal Living are produced here in Birmingham. And they're going to kind of take advantage of their photography studios, their editorial staff. And I think that this kind of shows that Birmingham can have nationally renowned magazines. I mean, we've shown it time after time with Southern Living. It's a great magazine. I know my wife gets it. But also that we can take a magazine that's not initially based here and hopefully grow it. Matthew, what do you take?
Well, it seems like a smart move. You already got facilities down here and established, I guess, a base of operations here. But on top of that, you've got much cheaper rent here. I can only imagine that the rent between here and New York City is, in the factor of 10
times, yeah.
So I think it's a great move, and I really enjoy the idea of having more businesses here, even if they're bringing pre-existing staff. Having opportunities here for people in our area to get jobs with these new companies coming in or pre-existing companies that are moving operations, I think that's great. I mean, I don't think there's a negative side to this.
Yeah, I'm reading the magazine right now. The complex that they're going to be taking over houses 28 test kitchens, 13 photography bays, and video studios that Time opened in 2015. So it's already here. I think they're kind of just taking advantage of the infrastructure they already have here. And that's some good news that's going on for Birmingham. And with the good, always comes the bad. And not really that bad of news. AT&T, as everybody knows, has the big building downtown, is going to be moving their 300 employees that are left there, and they're going to be moving out to their Data Center Drive building in Hoover. Now, Data Center Drive building has been there forever. This is not a new building they have built. Just kind of consolidating like Food and Wine Magazine is doing, I guess. But that is the namesake building that is the namesake company that's for that building. I did see where there is talks to make this building into a hotel and possibly build apartments within it. I'm happy about the hotel probabilities because I think that Birmingham is lacking hotel space in the downtown area. Anytime we have a convention that looks at having Birmingham as a host, one of their big negatives is say that Birmingham doesn't have the hotel space. When the DNC looked at Birmingham, that was one of the big negatives, that you'd have to have people housed all the way in Tuscaloosa or Montgomery or Huntsville and drive in every day.
Right.
So that's a positive. But on the flip side, the apartments.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I'd like to see what the numbers and the trend lines are looking for people living in the downtown area, because if people are not moving to downtown, the last thing you want is vacant buildings.
Right, and I've got a couple of acquaintances, I guess. Maybe I think my wife and I have a friend in one of the buildings there, close to Regents Park. But I'm not sure how full these buildings are, these new apartments that are popping up and the new loft spaces that are opening up. I'm not sure if they're filling up, and if they are filling up, if people are staying there, for their full term of contract. I'd be interested to see at what capacity these apartments and these lofts are staying at, because I wonder if we're not going to reach a point where, like right now, it's profitable to build a new apartment complex or a new loft space, but I wonder if we're not getting to a point where we're going to have empty spaces sitting vacant in the next couple of years.
And like I said, I want to be clear that this is not the whole building being vacant. It's just the namesake of that building is moving out to Birmingham. David Fleming of Rev Birmingham said that basically, losing jobs downtown is never a good thing, but this is not the trend. This is kind of going against the trend as we see it. And downtown has some very good bright spots. The Thomas Jefferson Hotel, now the Thomas Jefferson Tower, has recently opened in downtown Birmingham. You also have the Pizzitz Food Hall, which we actually went to this past week. Coming up later on in the show, we'll interview Birmingham mayoral candidate Randall Woodfin, and we did it at the Pizzitz Food Hall, and it was the first time that I've been there, and I must say, I was really, really impressed by the selection of food they had there, with the bar they had there. The atmosphere was excellent as well.
Yeah, it was great. And I'm kind of embarrassed. This place has been open for a few months now, several months, I should say. And I work downtown, but this is the first time I've had time to actually step in there. I did not get a chance to eat at any of the vendors there, but everything I walked past and kind of looked at looked great, smelled great. Everybody that was there, the place was relatively full. Everybody there seemed to be having a great time. So I'm going to try and make it a point this week to get back in there and get lunch or dinner one night.
And I was really impressed that the outside area was really nice, where you could go outside and eat or have a drink out there if you wanted to, and the parking was really good as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I went down there, I think it was right 6 o'clock at night, and found a parking spot within a minute.
Now, did you have to go into the parking deck, or did you?
No, I parked outside,
okay.
Which I believe the parking deck helps alleviate a lot of that congestion that people trying to park around the area. But I was really, really impressed, and I think if we have more of that in downtown Birmingham, it could really help Birmingham recruit some businesses that say, there's a lot going on downtown. It's not like that our employers are just going to be shut in these buildings with nothing else to do, because I think that's important to a lot of businesses. So let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll be going down to the Pizzitz Food Hall to hear from Birmingham mayoral candidate Randall Woodfin. He's going to tell us a little bit about his vision for the city of Birmingham if he's elected mayor. But first, let's hear an ad from our partners over at Beecham Woodworks, and we'll see you in a minute. Today's episode of the Red Mountain Express is brought to you by Beecham Woodworks. Beecham Woodworks is a locally owned and operated wood shop in Birmingham, Alabama, specializing in custom furniture and small home goods. Chris and Kanan Beecham create a wide variety of unique pieces of all sizes, ranging from cutting boards to farmhouse tables. Using wood sourced from Alabama sawmills, Beecham Woodworks create affordable quality pieces that will be one-of-a-kind fixture for your home. So support your local woodworker and visit beechamwoodworks.com. That's BEACHUM woodworks.com. Check out the link in our sponsors page of our website, redmountainexpress.com, or check them out on their Facebook or Instagram. Beecham Woodworks, turning your house into a home. And welcome back to the Red Mountain Express. As many of you may know, 2017 is an election year for Birmingham. On August 22nd, voters will go to the polls to elect their next mayor, city council, representatives of the Board of Education. And with that, our guest today is Mr. Randall Woodfin. He currently serves as the president of the Birmingham Board of Education, representing District 5. And last August, he announced his candidacy for mayor of Birmingham. Randall, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. I've been a candidate for 10 months now, and we have 55 days remaining before Election Day. So we set out to have a intentional 12-month, 365-day, 52-week conversation with voters and residents across this entire city, and it's been a very, very humbling process.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your background, and the path you took to becoming a candidate for the largest city in Alabama.
Absolutely. So I'm a proud son of Ralph Woodfin and Cynthia Kellum. I'm one of 4 children, next to the last. I come from a big family. My dad is out of 6 children, and my mom is out of 8 children. So I have family literally all over this city, and proud of that. You touch down in many, our family touches down in many of the city's 99 neighborhoods. So I feel like I'm a son of the city because I have family all over, and I know the city pretty well, all the way down to the neighborhood level. I grew up in a household. There were never less than 8 people in my home, so that shaped me a lot. And I'm a product of Birmingham City Schools K through 8th and County High School, Shays Valley. I'm a graduate of Morehouse College 14 years ago, and I'm celebrating 10 years, finished Cumberland School of Law this year. And public service is my life, and it's because I've been intentional about making that my path to helping others. I don't come from a political background or political family. My mother is a retired teacher, and my father is a retired social worker and retired from the state as a probation, pardon, and parole officer with 40 years. But their path has always been service, so that was passed to me for service. My path to running for and being a candidate for mayor is about service. I believe we're at a critical juncture in the city, and we have to make a choice whether we're going to continue with leadership that's all about self and not helping people, or we're going to pivot to a servant style of leadership and having a sense of urgency of helping people. So running for the school board 4 years ago is no different than being a lawyer for the city since 2009, which is I'm intentional about being in a public space of service. And I've been in public service for 14 years now. The entire time not as an elected official. You can be in public service and not be an elected official. But I think we are in a legitimate leadership crisis at City Hall, and that's why I'm running for mayor.
All right, and when you say crisis, can you expound on that any?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's an abuse and negligence of how tax dollars are being spent. So the city's budget rolled out 2 weeks ago, proposed budget of $428 million, and we're bragging, or some are bragging about the city's revenues has increased $67 million since this administration has been in place. Then why is there only pocket growth? Why does majority of the city look the same or worse over the last 7 years? So how are we spending tax dollars? The reason that's important to ask is because none of us have seen a plan around any issue. Infrastructure, street paving, education in regards to supporting education, transportation, homelessness, economic development and jobs. Name an issue. Name a single issue, and we have not seen a plan around it. So we're just spending tax dollars. And you can't be the largest city in the state and have all these issues around poverty, have all these issues around economic development, jobs, people's property value, etc., and there is no intentionality around spending tax dollars to improve people's quality of life or as it relates to helping the city move forward.
Talk about that pocket growth, as you said, because the downtown area has really revitalized itself in the last 5 years.
Right.
But there are those that think that the surrounding neighborhoods have not come as far. Some neighborhoods have, some neighborhoods haven't. What is your plan as mayor to make sure that those neighborhoods that are not quite keeping up with the growth in other parts of the city, what is your plan to make sure that they can do that?
Yeah, so again, I think you have to go back to the city's budget. With a $428 million budget, don't tell me we can improve all of the city. The city is not defined by downtown's growth. The city of Birmingham is defined by its lowest quality of life neighborhood. So if that neighborhood is a place where people don't feel safe on their own porch or in their front yard, and their property value continues to decline. And there's a burned out house next to it or overgrown lot 2 houses down from it, and the streets aren't paved, and the sidewalk and curbs not walkable in the neighborhood park. The playground equipment doesn't work, and the street lights don't work, and you don't have access to healthy food. That's the definition of Birmingham. My plan is to say, listen, there is nobody else's job. It's not the bank's job, private sector, nonprofit, the church job, or anybody else to do basic services. Most neighborhoods and residents that live in those neighborhoods are asking for basic services. We are going to pave streets. We're going to get rid of dilapidated houses. We're going to have a repurposed overgrown lots as it relates to whether pocket parks, community gardens, or side lots for the homeowner next door. We're going to make sure sidewalks and curbs are walkable. We're going to make sure the swing and other playground equipment in neighborhood parks work. We're going to make sure the air condition works in the summertime for our neighborhood libraries. And we're going to find a way to offer incentives and abatements and tax incentives to lure grocery stores to provide access to healthy food for neighborhoods across the entire city, whether you live in 35207, 35208, 35211, or anywhere else, 35214, etc. People on the west side and north side of town deserve access to healthy food as well. So I think what I am saying is we got to get back to the basics of how tax dollars are being spent. Everything can't be about the big picture, big ribbon cutting, new project, luring people to our city and not taking care of the people that already live here. And the people that already live here aren't asking for a lot. Let's pave their streets.
Yeah. So, and then speaking about getting back to the basics, a lot of people would say that growth can't continue to happen in Birmingham in a sustainable way without education being improved.
That's correct.
And so can you speak to, first, your role on the Board of Education right now, or the school board, and then how you plan to improve education for Birmingham as a city?
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to be on the school board and serve as past president. In that space, what I've attempted to do, not as an individual, but collectively as a body, is stabilize the school system and pivot from an adult-driven culture. So how do we do that? The first thing we had to do was get off state takeover, and that happened under my watch, along with my colleagues. The second thing we had to do was get from up under accreditation probation, which would hurt our children's high school diploma. And we did that. Third thing we had to do was find more local money to support academic programs. And in February 2015, we did that. I think as mayor, what we have to pivot to is having a laser-like focus on supporting the space when school is not in. And so we have to, as a city, commit to early childhood learning centers throughout this entire city to make sure the foundation is laid for when our children enter our school system. I believe the second thing we have to do is real summer enrichment programs, particularly for students who are not at grade level, and find a way to close that gap. The third thing we have to do is say, as a city, how can we support the school system by supporting workforce certification and trade programs? So for children who don't want to enter college or the military, they can go straight into the workforce. But for those who do want to enter college, we can offer the Fred Shuttlesworth Opportunity Scholarship and allow them to go to Jefferson State or Lawson State free of tuition. That's what we can do in the mayor's office in supporting education. And so if you look at the city of Huntsville with their $300+ million budget, they support their school system with $20 million. We have a $428 million budget, and we only give our school system less than $2 million. We can do more, we can do better. And we have to if we're going to make education and investing in our youngest generation a priority.
When talking about the city of Birmingham, in 2010, the census had Birmingham at just over 212,000 residents. 7 years later, those numbers have remained pretty much unchanged. Now, some people see that as a good thing because for decades we've had 10% loss or 5% loss, and now we're kind of maintaining.
Right.
But my question is how do you bring people back to Birmingham? I've had, and how do you keep people from saying, I have a job downtown in Birmingham, but I live in the suburbs. I guess my question to you is, like, how do you grow Birmingham and expand its residence base?
That is a great question. Listen, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say 3 words: jobs, jobs, jobs. Everything as it relates to the city's future, the city's growth, and present tense has to be about industry recruitment, workforce development, workforce training, and bringing jobs to our city. No city grows without employment opportunities. And there has not been an employment opportunity where we need it to be in our city. And if there is employment opportunity, then we are in a position where we have to make sure that our people have the workforce training they need to be ready for those employment opportunities. So what we've seen is people are moving into our downtown, people are moving into our south side, but at the same time, people with school-age children are moving out. And at the exact same time of that, those who are from our city, going off to college, are not coming home. They're moving to cities like Atlanta, Nashville, and Austin, or staying in cities like Atlanta, Nashville, and Austin for employment opportunities. As mayor, there is, outside of fighting crime, outside of investing in education, there's nothing more important than bringing jobs to the city. And then you ask me, well, how do you change crime and decrease crime in your city? Put people to work.
Sure. So to follow up on that then, how do you sell Birmingham when you're recruiting businesses, when you're talking to people from outside there? I know you've been on some trips recently. You were in Atlanta today.
Correct.
You were, where were you
Philadelphia,
last week? Philadelphia
and Memphis last week.
Yeah. So when you're talking to people in those other cities, how are you selling Birmingham to them?
1, I tell people, listen, we're open for business. 2, as the biggest city in the state with the largest budget, we can do things to help people and different industries. So as it relates to our rail line, as it relates to 4 interstates intersecting, as it relates to the opportunity to grow our airport, we should be a logistics hub for the Southeast. When you look at Hyundai, Honda, and Mercedes, those second-tier organizations, or those organizations that have to help with and or offering services to those 3, we should be in the center. We should be the space where by train, by airport, by interstate, we're the central place for any of those 3 organizations. That's 1. 2, let's not forget UAB is not only the biggest employer in the city, but the state. Let's have a real conversation with UAB. That partnership is not where it's supposed to be. It's not optimal, in my opinion. And as it relates to UAB and Southern Research, we can be a biotech hub. And that's jobs in the infinity, our own identity. So it's really about, when I'm going to these other cities, I'm asking questions. Tell me your city's identity. Tell me, has this identity always been, or did you have to pivot? How did you pivot? I think for Birmingham, we don't necessarily need to say, or we can be the next Nashville or next Atlanta. No, we are us. We're Birmingham. What are our strengths? How do we expand on our strengths? If we have certain industries that are already here, how do we expand on those? And then I think that's something we can't forget. We can be the manufacturing hub of the Southeast. That's something we were founded on in 1871. I don't think that's something we should pivot or run from. There's nothing wrong with the city of Birmingham having a balance of white-collar and blue-collar employment opportunities. And from that manufacturing standpoint, it can be light, medium, and heavy. And that's how I sell.
One of the things that a lot of people talk about when they talk about Birmingham and other large cities is regional cooperation. Jefferson County has 34 municipalities, all with their own agendas, their own leadership. But how do you plan to work with leaders from Mountain Brook, Hoover, Pelham, and is there a strategy that you're going to have when you sit down with them to make the city of Birmingham better? Because I think that, and I'm of the opinion, that when Birmingham is strong, so are those outlying cities. And when those outlying cities are strong, so is Birmingham. How are you going to do that?
Great question. I know Parker and the Community Foundation just released a study last week. And if I could put the study in one word, it's cooperation. And I think before that study was released, I think people were skeptical about what was going to be produced, because I think a lot of people are used to this whole notion of people keep throwing out this word consolidation. And I don't think anybody has the appetite for that. But it doesn't matter where you are on the globe. Everybody has the appetite for cooperation, because it always has a positive connotation anywhere you go. And I think it's time for cooperation. But I am fully committed to what I'm about to tell you, which is we have to crawl before we walk. So I can't talk about being intentional and having this open dialogue and conversation and plan around regional cooperation with other municipalities within the county, and the mayor and the council don't get along. And so one of the things I talked about earlier about the leadership crisis, the current mayor and council have put us on notice that they refuse to work together, and this mayor refuses to work with the council. That he ignores them, he doesn't talk to them, and he makes plans without them, but he needs their vote via recommendation. And what I'm telling people is we have to hit the reset button at City Hall, because you have to have a mayor that's willing to be humble enough, show humility, and always communicate with the council. So cooperation for me starts with crawling before we walk. I have to commit to cooperation with the council first, because it doesn't matter how big my vision is, it doesn't matter how detailed my plan is for the city, and having priorities to support that plan and fund those priorities if I don't have cooperation with the council. So that's first. I think the plan I have working with the council will be the same plan I have working with other municipalities, which is going to start with the council, county commission, then other mayors. There's joint work to be done. And in that space, I think it's part of my own individual style, which is I'm not only patient, but I believe in listening more than talking. And if we're listening to not only the council and the county commissioners, but we're listening to other mayors, there's cooperation in there at some point. The truth is, it may be around economic development and jobs. So there may be space within our city limits for a venture to come, or a joint venture with another city to bring on more jobs for everybody in the area.
Okay, great. So as Blake mentioned before, we're getting pretty close to Election Day. I know we were talking to Ed before we started the interview, and he was talking about that you're really going to start, ramping up on like the door-to-door campaign and getting into the local neighborhoods.
That's correct.
So for the people listening, two-part question. One, how can they get more involved and help you out if they're interested in helping you out? And two, how can they find more information about you and your campaign and what you plan on doing?
Oh, absolutely. So maybe I can answer that with one answer. Both questions with one answer. We want to encourage everyone that's listening to this. We want to encourage everyone that cares about the direction of the city of Birmingham to please visit our website. It's my name, randallwoodfin.com. That's RANDALLWOOD as in Daniel, F as in Frank, IN, randallwoodfin.com. And there's an overwhelming amount of information on the site in regards to who I am, why I'm running, the vision for our city, plan around neighborhood revitalization, around education, supporting education that is, around supporting small businesses and addressing crime and public safety, but also around transparency and collaboration and working with the council, as well as how we're going to spend the city's budget and be big picture enough to move our city forward. But at the same time on that website, we want to encourage people to visit our volunteer page to sign up and join our efforts. We are a grassroots campaign. We want to fight for and help people. Instead of fighting the council, I want to fight for people. And I think where we are with 55 days out before this election, we can use all the help we can get. I'm honored to be a candidate. This has been a great and amazing process. There's work to be done, and we need people's help. So, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We really do
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been great.
Well, listen, that's going to about wrap it up for this edition of the Red Mountain Express. Again, we want to thank our guest, mayoral candidate Randall Woodfin. And I have to ask you one more question. If you're elected mayor, you have to come back on this program.
I'll be ready. Can't wait.
All right.
Seriously, I can't wait.
Great. Well, listen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Remember, everybody, to vote on August 22nd. Join us next week. We're going to sit down with David Fleming over at Rev Birmingham. We're going to talk about Birmingham's current revitalization and how Rev Birmingham is working to sustain those efforts. And also remember to visit us on redmountainexpress.com as well as our Facebook and Twitter feeds for news and updates. So, for Matthew Joyner, I am Blake Westbrook. This has been the Red Mountain Express, and we shall see you next week.